Hey babes, welcome to the podcast. It's Emily
and Abigail.
And today, let's talk about singleness. So, I feel like singleness always has a negative connotation.
Oh, for sure.
But I think it's important to talk about singleness because, personally, and just from knowing you, singleness is such a big part of a personal journey. And I know during Valentine's Day, during the time of Valentine's, February in general, people that are single, they start to feel like kind of upset about it and everything. So me and Abigail are really going to talk about just what singleness was for us and why the singleness experience and the singleness time period is just so important for an individual's growth.
Yeah, to not skip over, because I think very easily we rush into things because we don't want to be single any longer. We like having a significant other. We like having somebody to go and talk to about everything. But the truth is, in singleness, you can actually grow more individually and be prepared for that season, just like we were talking about last week with timing and with being prepared for that person to come along. And if you're not ready, then it can end in disaster. So we're going to talk about how to navigate singleness. And trust me, I'm still figuring it out. I am in it right now, and it's quite interesting. But I can really say that this has been one of the biggest growing seasons of my whole life.
Yeah, I feel like for me, singleness and my time of singleness and my different times of being single, honestly, I'm like, now that I'm thinking about it, every single time period was such a transformational time in my life of me personally growing. And it was such a beautiful experience because there was times where I was sad. I was like, I want a boyfriend. I want to be in a relationship. And there was other times I was like, hold on. This is so important.
Yeah.
Like I'm able to grow. And it's so cool that you're walking through it and like I'm in a relationship. Like it's cool because we get to see the opposite sides of the spectrum and how we're both walking in different seasons, but like together, it's so cool. But I think me and Abigail are a great example of what it's like I don't really necessarily pity you because you don't have a relationship and you don't idolize my relationship either,
right.
Which I think happens a lot between friends when they're not in the same season.
That's true, because it's very easy for a lot of people to get into relationships. You know, there's cuffing season and then there's breaking up seasons and there's all these different things. So you'd be like, wow, everyone's getting in a relationship. And then you're the one sitting there like, dang, I wish I was. And it's very easy, like you said, to pity yourself in that. But I think being so present in the circumstance and the situation you're in is key for you to finding or being placed in that relationship that you wouldn't have been ready for if you weren't content in the season you were already in.
I think that's just so true. So we have three main things that we're going to kind of address. And first off, just address like why singleness is a good thing. And I think we already kind of started talking about that, but Abigail, do you want to expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah. So, like we were saying last week, singleness is very important simply because it's a time for you to grow personally. It's a time where you can evaluate your relationships in the past. You can see where you failed.
Home studio problems.
Sorry, dog home studio, but it's the ability to really just grow in yourself, to get to know yourself even more so than you would within a relationship, because you're so focused on where do I want to go? What do I want to do? And you're not consumed by the thoughts of somebody else. And like, when are they going to make the move? When are they going to continue to just be there? When can I go to them to talk to them about my problems? No. Actually, it's time for me to work on myself. It's time for me to grow in myself. And singleness is so often like seen as waiting. It's so often seen as I cannot wait till I have that perfect relationship and I can be ooh la la and go on dates and all this stuff. Well, actually, waiting it's not true. It's a matter of working. Like, what are you doing during that season?
Waiting versus working. So good.
And waiting for a relationship, and a lot of people will say, I'm just waiting around for that person. Okay, what are you doing while that's happening? Are you still taking steps to financially prepare yourself for a relationship? Are you taking steps to mentally prepare yourself, emotionally prepare yourself, all of that stuff? Or are you sitting back pitying yourself in the process?
That's so good. I think another thing to go along with that is the working part.
Yeah.
It's a time of growth, and what are you doing to prepare yourself? Like okay, like she said, emotionally, mentally, like, are you individual enough that and solid in your identity as an individual before you bring someone along, because if you're not, you're going to change to that person and not be authentically yourself.
Right.
You're going to be the something version of whoever you're dating or whoever you're talking to, whomever you like, because that your circles kind of define who you are a little bit.
Right.
And when you're dating someone, you definitely pick up on things that they're doing. They pick up on things that you're doing. Even when you live with someone, you pick up on their habits, they pick up on yours. So if you're not solid in who you are yourself before you get in a relationship, it's a very dangerous time.
Yeah,
I think,
because you're vulnerable to develop the habits that they have.
Yeah.
Versus coming together to encourage one another, you're coming together to pull each other down.
Yeah. I think that kind of brings another question to the table, is like how to prepare yourself by yourself, like before bringing someone else along. So like, Abigail, like in your time of singleness, and I'll answer after, but how are you preparing yourself by yourself?
Yeah. So wow. Okay. So time to get vulnerable. All right. So I was in a relationship for about 2 years. We broke up like when I graduated and everything. It was a process, honestly. It was definitely a season that I was like, dang, whoa, this is weird. You know, you're in a relationship with 2 years with someone and you're constantly able to hang out with them. You're constantly going on dates. You're constantly texting, all this stuff. And then just like that, they're out of the picture and they become a stranger. And you're like, whoa.
You're like, hold on.
Yeah. And honestly, like it took me a little bit to move on, but I'm all good now. Like we chillin'. But honestly, it has been very much of such a growing season. And I didn't even know I needed to grow in those areas. So I started to see the roots of problems in my foundations. So I started to realize, okay, the reason that I wanted attention here is because of the way I was rejected here in my past. The reason why I wanted fulfillment in this way is because in my past, I was affected by this situation. And I started to see the root problems, the core problems. And I had to go to the inward parts of those problems to really recognize, okay, how can I heal and grow from this? Because until you're out of a relationship, you're very much blinded and you're not seeing everything around you. You're not seeing and taking that into perspective. Okay, why am I acting like this? Why is this happening?
Yeah.
And so this season has been it's been a pruning season. For sure. It's been like, okay, let's work on this. Oh, that's a problem that you haven't dealt with. That's a problem you haven't dealt with. And because of this problem, you're an overachiever. And because of this problem, you go out of your way when you really should sit back and relax. Because of this rejection, you continuously put yourself in the front of the race because you feel like you have to compete to get to where you want to be. When in reality, it's a process of you learning yourself, and everyone's going to have a different race and a different endurance. And you have to trust in that process and just getting to the point where you want to be instead of comparing yourself. And so it's very much been eye-opening to, whoa, that's why I acted that way. And then taking that point, healing from it, mourning it, and then healing from it. Because I think it's
dwelling on it. Key thing that she left out is not dwelling on it. So often people dwell on the breakup situation for months.
I know.
And it's
for me,
not healthy.
For me, it was just like one day I was like, okay, it happened. It's over. That's okay. We have memories. It's fine. I really need to decide, what do I want to do now? And honestly, you see those TikToks where it's like, he hurt me so bad, I'm going to go do this now. Actually, why don't we turn that around and say, he hurt me. Okay, that's fine. That's not the reason I'm doing this. I'm doing this to better myself, not to look better to other people. And that's kind of the season I was in, because I was like, he hurt me. I want to go do this. I want to be that
home studio problems, guys. It's real. Sponsor us so we can get an actual studio. Yeah. Thank you.
But it's a matter of, actually, I'm improving myself for myself, not because I want to come back better than ever so I can make him jealous. That's not the purpose. The purpose is coming back better than ever so that you and yourself are confident in who you've become because of the work you put in to get to where you are. So for me, what did I start doing? I started working out more. I started becoming more consistent in just forming friendships that are more valuable. I started doing different things that really improved myself. We now have a podcast, I have a blog, all these different things that I'm doing because I'm doing it for myself, not because I need to do it to feel validation by anyone else.
That's so good. For me, I think preparing myself was such a huge thing to get where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
The whole part of preparing yourself. I was in a serious relationship as well, and it wasn't necessarily the healthiest. For me, I personally was working through a lot of things. That I didn't know how to deal with being with someone, and I couldn't deal with it being with someone. I had, again, what you said, you have to deal with it by yourself. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand that, but take it from me personally, who has been in the relationship, been out of that relationship, had my singleness period, and now is in a different relationship, which, I mean, there's still learning curves when you're in a relationship, but in that moment when you realize, oh, snap, I have these issues, and self-reflection is such a big thing. You will hear me say this throughout this whole entire just series of relationship talks, no matter what that be, is self-reflection. I had I think I had like a month where I just self-reflected on everything, the whole relationship, just the way I acted in the relationship, the way he acted in the relationship, and differentiated what was the cause. Because I think a lot of times during a breakup, it's a lot of he said, she said, she did this, he did this. It's a bunch of drama that nobody really needs. And people just dwell on it. Other people feed into it. Like, oh my gosh, did you see what he posted? Oh my gosh, did you see who she went and hung out with? Did you see like all these things that she's doing? And it's like, oh, okay, hold on though. Self-reflect. Don't let that become your reality, because that's not reality. That's not really the core of what's going on. And personally for me, it was a lot of trauma. I had been through a lot of trauma before, and I had gotten to this relationship. I thought I was okay. And honestly, I was not. And just this whole relationship, I'm trying mentally and physically, without me realizing, like subconsciously, I'm trying to heal. My inner body's trying to heal. My mental, like everything is trying to heal. And I can't do that, because every time I'm with him or, we're having a conversation, it would just bring it all back up. It was never a healing moment. It was always just like, well, okay, let's bring that back up and let's twist it more. Like, bring it back up, let's twist it more. Like
for that,
never truth.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times as girls, we get caught up in what happened, and we let it affect the future in our relationships, in the future in our thoughts. And we dwell on words. Like, I'm not gonna lie, some of the circumstances that I've walked through in relationships, I look back, I'm like, what the heck? Why in the world did he do that? Why did this happen? I'm like, how could you have the audacity to hurt me like that? And like the audacity, and there's a couple times where I was like, you know what? And just like I was so mad, and I was fed up with it, because it does hurt. It does. But it's a matter of what you do with that pain.
Exactly.
Are you going to take that pain and you're going to dwell on it, and you're going to let it affect your whole entire future and all of your relationships and pinpoint every single guy to be the exact same? Or are you going to say, actually, that's a broken person who obviously has a lot he needs to deal with, so I'm going to take myself out of the equation because I know it's going to better myself, because if I continue to chase after that, I'm going to miss somebody else that's probably meant for me, or I'm going to miss the work in myself because I'm so focused on working on someone else beside who I am.
And I think that kind of goes back to like my story, is just, there was so much I was going through, I couldn't do it with him. Yeah. I couldn't do it with him. And I honestly dwelled on it for a little bit, and I compared after that every guy, one after another. But afterwards I was like, okay, Emily, get yourself together. Like, okay, like you need to get over this. Like, why are you so dwelling on this? I was like, because I believed in these empty promises that can't be fulfilled for myself. Other than no one can fulfill it except for myself. And especially like habits. I think, habits, we talked in January a lot about habits and different things that, better you. But in this time of singleness, build those habits, like make the lifestyle that you want to live. You have to do that yourself. You can't do that based off someone else's lifestyle. And morals, like if your morals don't line up, whatever those may be, from personal experience, it never works. It never works. And in that time of singleness, you have to know what you're like, learn what those mores are, cultivate what you think as an individual before going in. That's my biggest piece of advice. And honestly, the biggest thing that I learned, kind of going into our second point, like what have we learned in being to learn to be content in singleness, is like who I am. Who I am as an individual, what I personally believe, no matter what the other person, whether I like him or not, whether I'm into him or not, what I personally believe, what I'm personally convicted about. Because, you know, for me and Abigail, you know, we're both Christians and everything. So for us and anybody, no matter what, your morals and the way you live have to be similar or line up with the other person that you're with. But if you're not solid in those by yourself, how can you expect to be yourself with someone else?
Right, because they're just going to drag you right back down to where you don't really want to be.
Drag you down, or I would even say just a lot of arguments can come from it, and it's not necessarily them trying to drag you down, but it's just you don't see eye to eye.
Yeah.
And if you're not solid in that, when you don't see eye to eye, I know we had this conversation, is just we both have a tendency to shut down when we're confronted by stuff.
Yeah.
And when you're not solid in who you are, you can't sit down and have a conversation about it. Like
No.
that's not a thing. So you have to, you know, be solid in order to have that conversation. But again, if you're not, that conversation won't happen. And then it turns into a bigger argument than what it initially is.
Yeah. And it, like, content in singleness, I'm not going to lie, it can be very hard when you see all of your friends getting into relationships. This past season has been one of the most trying seasons of my life. I'm not gonna front. Cause I mean, for example, Emily got in a relationship, and then two of my other best friends got in a relationship. Bing, bang, boom. I'm like, what the heck is going on up in here? And it very easily can be like, dang, I want one. But then I stop and I recognize, hold on, why am I looking for the one? I should be becoming the one, because I'm in a process of pruning and growing in myself and being firm in myself. And until you're firm and being completely by yourself, you're not ready for a relationship.
Yeah.
Because then you're going to put false expectations on someone, false obligations, and you're going to place that person in a place they shouldn't belong. They're going to be idolized in your life, which means they have the power and authority to hurt you more than you've ever been hurt before.
Yeah, and it comes down to if you give them the power and authority.
Exactly.
Like you have the ability to take that power and authority back, but you have to be willing to do it and put your foot down. Unfortunately, I've seen where some of my friends have gotten into a relationship or started liking people, and they just aren't compatible in that area because they're not able to step down and put their foot and be like, no, hold on. This is me. A relationship is two individuals running together, not a three-legged race.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a three-legged race. You're running right beside each other, but you're not tied. Like, you're not tied. You're maybe holding hands or whatever, but that means if one falls, you're going to stop and you're going to help pick them back up, but you don't go down with them. You don't go down with them. You both stand up together, and, you know, the other person might help you up. You might help them up, but then you guys start running again, not you're tied at the leg. And I'm saying this because we're talking specifically about dating. It's a little different when, you know, you're in that, you know, marriage or whatever, you're engaged. I mean, it's a little bit different, but we're specifically talking about dating. You're not tied to them. You are not their significant other in that way. And that is not the capacity that you're able to fill when they do fall. Like, don't fall with them. Don't fall with them. Stay where you are. Don't let them drag you down. Again, don't let them drag you down, but lift them up in the ways that you can, in the ways that you're able to, but also realize that responsibility of, oh, I have to make him feel okay. I have to do that. No, you don't. That is not your responsibility. Don't act like you're wearing a ring before you got the ring. Boys and girls, don't act like you're wearing a ring before, because trust me, from personal experience, again, it really twists the way you look at and evaluate your role in a relationship and in singleness as well.
So good. The way that I have learned now for what I want in a future relationship is I want to be like, that person is literally just like another best friend with the potential to turn into something more one day. But while I'm dating, they're really my best friend. And honestly, Emily, she's by far like one of my best friends, you know? And because
surprise, we're dating, guys. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But with a friendship, you know, we have communication, we have boundaries, we have ways that we talk, we have business hours, friendship hours, like we have specific times set in stone. And I'm very understanding of her schedule because she works a lot, and she's very understanding of my schedule with school and everything and basketball. And because of that, we're on the same page and we're able to navigate. But we're not going to get completely like wound up in the fact, oh, I really hope she's completely okay. Like, I hope she's not ignoring me. I hope that this isn't happening. Like, I'm scared that she's not going to be there. I'm scared that she's going to go away, blah, 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 blah. That's what we do in relationships. They don't answer for 5 hours and you start freaking out. It's consuming your mind, the over thoughts. No, actually use that time to think about yourself and where you want to go.
Yeah.
You know, I have to look at a relationship the same way I would look at a friendship, because realistically, looks aren't going to last forever. You get married to a person, they ain't going to look like that when they're 80 years old. They're not going to be the exact same. You have to build a foundation upon a friendship and then build into a relationship because of the chemistry and the feelings that you have for one another. But first and foremost, it has to be a friendship. And so
before that, you have to be, even in a friendship, like Abigail said.
Yeah.
I'm just going off of what you said a little bit here.
Yeah.
But even before that, even before you start a friendship with someone and you start getting feelings, you start getting the butterflies or whatever you want to call them, the giggles, I don't know, whatever. Before you start getting giddy, you have to be solid in yourself. Again, you have to be solid in yourself. Abigail and I are able to communicate the way we do, have the boundaries that we do, be able to operate the way we do as friends, as business partners, as podcasters, as friends, as whatever, as whatever, because we had to learn through friendship times and being alone that these are the things that are important to us. Okay, now that I'm solid in myself, I can now be in a friendship. And that's exactly what she's saying with relationships.
Correct.
You have to be solid in yourself. Then think about building that friendship.
Right.
And then after the friendship, think about the relationship.
It makes me think about, you know, this is such a weird analogy, but for some reason it's coming to my mind. So I used to work at a frozen yogurt shop, and with frozen yogurt, it's like
they sell good yogurt.
It's so good. When you're there, you pick your ice cream, you add your toppings. Like I usually went for like peanut butter swirl or whatever, then put on my Reese's, and then I put on my peanut butter, and then marshmallow, and then hot fudge, and then whipped cream, and there you go. But it's a process. Like you don't get that end goal just like that.
No.
You know, it's the same with a relationship. You're going to start with the foundation, start with the base, start with the frozen yogurt. This is such a weird analogy, but we're going with it. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to add on to it.
In the natural.
I'm going to go and add on to it. I'm going to add those toppings. I'm going to add those different things that need to be put into a relationship. You know, it's both ways. You both have to put into it. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to add even more into it. And then I'll have the beautiful picture in the end, but it's a process. It's not going to happen within a minute. Just as when people rush into it within a month, they're like, oh crap, where do we go from here? Because you didn't really get to know each other. Now you're going to have to start all over. Now you're going to have to go from the get-go because you missed a lot of foundational aspects that are lacking now in your relationship, which are causing problems.
Yeah, and I think it's important to recognize when someone else hasn't been content in their singleness. It's very easy to tell.
Yeah.
You know, I say that because you can tell just by the way they, I don't like saying seek attention because that sounds really negative, but like the way they want to be seen, the way they like to receive attention and affection, the type of building up they need. And you know, there is a difference between, you know, just like there's real insecurities. Everyone has them. I have them. Abigail has them. But then there's also like well, I need validation because in this area, I still haven't been able to find that guy that fills this area. And I'm saying that just because we're girls. I can't think like a guy. I'm not a guy, obviously. But you know, afterwards, you have to be able to pinpoint things. And I think that just kind of comes with common sense, in my opinion. I think you know in your gut when you're like, that person hasn't really figured themselves out yet. Yeah. They're still learning. And it's really important. And I think the biggest mistake that people make is that time of singles, them not becoming their own person and then getting into a relationship, trying to become that person. The relationship becomes their identity.
That's so true. And also, this just came to my mind. In your singleness, let it be your singleness, not your mingleness.
Oh, come on.
Because the amount of people that I meet, they're like, yeah, I'm single, I'm living my best life. But then they have like 40 guys they're Snapchatting daily and DMing and messaging and all these different things.
And it's not just friends.
It's not just friends. Like, you know,
friends.
you're being flirtatious, which is honestly, everyone has their own things. For me, I can't do that because that's me still seeking validation from a guy. It's going to be the same thing as soon as I get into a relationship because I am like, oh, he finally feels that validation that no other guy could reach. Whoa, no way. But if you're doing that with 40 other guys, your heart is being fragmented to a bunch of different people. Mm-hmm. And they're seeing bits and pieces of you.
I'm
now
so happy
you're
you went
being
there.
Yeah, like now you're being torn apart into these different mini relationships in a way. So then by the time the right person comes along, your heart is all over the place. And let's not lie. You're texting someone every once in a while, you're going to think, oh, he's kind of cool. What if? And then the next guy, oh, he's kind of cool. What if that? What if this? What if that?
And then it turns into a ball of confusion. And
then by the time you get in a relationship, your strings are attached to so many different people that now the person you're with can't trust if you're loyal or not.
Here's my thing. I'm gonna go on a little rant. Oh, well. The whole no strings attached during your time of singleness. I have many opinions on this because the way my friend group is very half and half. Some people are like, there's always strings attached. And the other half is like, there's no strings attached. And I'm like, for me, I'm probably more on there's always strings attached. Because I mean, think of like, even like with hookup culture or whatever you want to call it, the way you live, lifestyle wise, whatever, you always end up going back. Mm-hmm. One night stands turn into 3 night stands. Real darn quick. Think about why.
Yeah.
Think about emotionally why. And then it's like, even just, oh, we're just friends. I'm just on this app because I'm looking for friends. I'm just on this app because I want to talk to people. Okay, well, now you're talking to them more than you are to your close friends. Who are you up till 4 a.m. talking to? Okay, what are you talking about?
It's no longer that one person is their idol. It's now the validation and seeking for approval from every single guy or every single girl is their idol.
Get that validation from yourself. Make you the person you want to be.
Yeah.
I think that's the bottom line that we're really trying to get to. And we're kind of going around in circles, but I think because it's so important for me and Abigail, it was such an important lesson for me. I don't know about you, but I'm talking for you.
Yes.
But it was such an important lesson for us to learn is like, no, like this is who I am. This is my personality. This isn't just what people classify me as. This is who I am. This is my identity, and I'm going to own it. And it's so important for anyone in a relationship to be yourself. And again, going back to one of our first points, prepare yourself by yourself.
Yeah.
Because you have to be yourself when you're with someone else. That I keep going back to that. It's so important. It's the biggest lesson I learned from my singleness.
My biggest lesson is stop seeking.
Yeah.
Because I know in the past when I was single, it was very easy to be Snapchatting a bunch of people and getting validation and being like, oh, this one might be it, or this one might be it, or that one might be it. Actually, no, none of them are. So actually now in my singleness, I honestly, I don't text like any guys. I don't have Snapchat. And honestly, it's your personal opinion, but this is just some of the best advice I've gotten because it's allowed me to grow and be completely content in who I am and who I've been made to be and who I am becoming and bettering myself instead of seeking for validation. And I think cutting people off or not allowing for those to not seek validation in multiple different people. I really don't text any guys unless we've already established what that relationship is. If we know that we're friends, sure, whatever, I'll text them because we've already established what that is. Yeah. Or say in the future, I end up actually liking someone, then I would consider actually texting them.
Yeah.
You know, but that's not, it's not like, oh, I like this one and this one and this one and this one and this one. And I'm going to keep my options open. So I'm going to DM all 10 of them. Actually, no, that's scattering myself all over the place.
Do
and
that.
honestly, I don't have the patience for that. I don't have the ability to talk to 10 different guys. Like, I would go insane.
I'm horrible at texting, so I literally am incapable. I am incapable of doing that.
Me too. So it's really just a matter of, where are you okay with growing on your own?
I think that's awesome. And just to wrap up this episode, I think, just recapping, because we did talk a lot about different aspects. We even talked about relationships, and it's supposed to be about singleness, but singleness is such an important part of a relationship. So I think, just to recap it all, it's like, make sure you're preparing yourself by yourself before you bring someone else along. Making sure that in your singleness is not your mingleness time. Like, make sure that you're really working on yourself, taking that singleness time to work on yourself, as Abigail was saying, and really take that time to self-evaluate and reevaluate. I think that's our main things.
Yeah. And really just be content, because one thing that I've heard over and over and over again from people that are older and married is, I wish I enjoyed my singleness while I had it. Because now they're married with 3 kids and like, I don't get alone time. I don't get time to myself and breathe. So be content in where you are instead of rushing ahead, because the season looks more exciting than where you are right now.
Yeah. The grass is not always greener on the other side.
Correct.
The grass is not always greener. And expect it, I think, to wrap it up, expect it not to be easy. It's not. It's not always easy learning to be content. It is difficult, but it's worth it. And I think me and Abigail are living testimonies of just kind of like, it is worth it.
I'm living it right now. Putting it out there.
And I have lived it, and I'm like, it's worth it. It's worth it to take that time. It's worth it to be like, actually, no. And don't worry about saying no while you're in your time of singleness to someone. If you're not quite there yet, there's no harm in saying no.
There's no harm.
There's no harm at all. So that's all we have today, talking about singleness, relationships. Let's talk about singleness, all of that. We cannot wait for next week. We have some pretty good content for you guys.
So excited.
We're pretty excited.
All right.
Make sure that you guys are staying tuned with our Instagram, TikTok, all of our social medias, because March Madness is coming up and it is going to be crazy good.
It's gonna rock your world.
We have a crazy awesome lineup. Like,
it's going to be amazing.
It's
the
so
roster, top tier.
Top tier, guys. But you guys also have a chance to be on it. So make sure that you fill out an application and submit it to us, because we are going to have some special guests on here to chit chat about some things, some questions, some life experiences, some advice, some of all of that. So
Stay tuned.
It's going to be awesome.
All right. Bye, babes.
Bye, babes.